Hi, and welcome to episode 4 of Pebble People. Today, we're actually talking to Suzanne, otherwise known as the Batch Lady, who I'm super excited to chat to around cooking, all things batch cooking, all things getting to know your ingredients, what to do with your ingredients, how to shop effectively, the whole list. I know that for parents, it's especially mind-boggling to be looking after kids, but also looking after the household. And so we're hoping to get some wonderful insights for you today. Welcome.
Hi.
How are you?
Nice to be here.
Great. Really, really nice to have you. And I would love for you to give our audience a little bit about yourself, a little bit of context around who you are.
Yeah, well, so I'm a mum of 2 kids, but they're now teenagers, so they're a bit more grown up. And I basically don't like cooking, which surprises everybody. That's my secret, considering that I write cookery books and I don't particularly like cooking. So I started The Batch Lady because I couldn't quite believe that once you have kids, that it is your job to do dinner every single night of the week, day in, day out. And it can be monotonous. Whether you like cooking or not, it's monotonous. And it actually takes a lot of your time up between deciding what to eat, buying the ingredients, cooking everything, cleaning up at the end of it. It's a huge chunk of that evening used up. And it's that evening of the witching hour that we all have when everybody's tired and grumpy and you're trying to bath babies and feed other ones. And it's so I decided that I was going to do something about it and start making really easy recipes that you could make in advance whenever you wanted, whenever you had the time to do it, so you could cook when you want and eat when you want, and they weren't necessarily joined together in the same way.
Amazing. That's such a good idea, isn't it? I think batch cooking, not everybody understands what batch cooking is, or it has like a bad reputation where they're going to think it's not tasty or nutritious. It's just kind of, something that you're just going to do. But I'm sure that you're here to dispel those myths.
100%, yes. So as the Batch Lady, I have always been sort of interviewed on that sort of misconceptions of 1970s frozen food, which is no longer the case. I mean, the best way to describe this is we all used to watch television when we were kids, and whenever an advert came up, that was your only time to run and get a cup of coffee, a biscuit, and then get back for the start of the programme. Now we have Netflix, now we have streaming channels, now you pause and you come back and watch it whenever you want. Your freezer is that exact same thing. It is your pause button. You cook when you want, you pause and you eat when you want. And nowadays, especially with things like frozen veg, frozen fruit, they are more nutritious than fresh. Remember, things that are fresh in the supermarket have been held in cold store, sometimes for months at a time. Things that are frozen have been picked within sort of 30 minutes and flash frozen. There's more nutrients in frozen than there is in fresh, and it's 20% cheaper. It is a win-win. We've all got a freezer. You don't have to go out and buy a whole new appliance. The majority of us have them, and you don't need a big freezer. You can have a one drawer of a freezer and you can still batch cook. This, what I show, is modern batch cooking. It's very different to that huge big pan of spaghetti bolognese and eat it for months and months. This is about, I'm going to go through it throughout this interview, double bubbling, tripling up. It's basically a great way of living. You are making your own healthy, ready meals that suit your family on a budget, and it makes your life 100% easier. I have so many people that follow me online. I mean, we're well over 500,000. About 750,000. It works. People wouldn't follow it if it didn't work.
No, exactly. Wonderful. So what is batch cooking and why is it relevant for parents?
So the best way to describe it is batch cooking is simply making more than one meal at a time. So, for instance, I always recommend if you're starting off that people used to think batch cooking was like, let's cook for a whole day and then not cook for the rest of the month. The best way to do it is to what I call double bubble. If you have a night that you're eating something that you know it's a recipe that freezes, if you're following my recipes, you know it freezes, your kids love it, you think, I'm going to make double portions. The minute you make a double portion, one for tonight, you eat it, the other one goes in the freezer, you're batch cooking. It's as simple as that. It's addictive. Once you do it once, you do the next one. If you're cooking one recipe, say that recipe takes 15 minutes, it generally takes about 3 more minutes to make a double portion. So that's you saved a whole night of cooking. Then what I always say is on your quiet nights that maybe you don't have an after school club or you don't have something that you're taking the kids to. It might be a Tuesday that you're home early in the afternoon. If you've got time, that's your doubling night. Another night you might be doing swimming lessons and straight into another activity, and you might be rushing home to go back out again. That's your night for eating out the freezer. So you have some nights you double, some nights you eat out the freezer. Just helps you make your life easier. It's a very modern way of batch cooking than what was always thought of as sort of previously.
That's great. And so I can see this being relevant for, parents in general, but have you got any top tips for new parents? So somebody that is about to, have their first child or is having another child and already has one, sort of new parents and or parents to newborn. What are some of those top tips that you can recommend for them to get into batch cooking?
Okay, well, let's first start with, say, somebody who's still pregnant. It's a great time to use that nesting instinct energy that you've got, and as you're thinking, I want to sort of get organised for baby coming, it's a perfect time to use that time that you've got. A lot of the meals that I show that you can do, especially grab and cook meals that we'll go on to talk about later, you don't even have to cook. You're prepping them and freezing them raw so that you can do it sat down at a table. You don't have to be standing at a kitchen. So if you're heavily pregnant, you can still sit at your kitchen table and make these up ready to go, and they take a couple of minutes. So I would start early and just start to put things in your freezer that you really know that you both like to eat. So that the both of you are getting healthy and nutritious meals. So you might choose a few chicken, a few vegetarian, a few vegan, whatever way that you eat, and choose a sort of mix of variety of things and get them frozen in your freezer. And then when baby is born, you've got that just ease of almost like someone else has given you a meal. All you have to do is take it out in the morning, and by evening you're cooking it. A lot of them you can cook from frozen, so even if you forget, you can just grab them out the freezer. If you've made a fish pie, grab it out the freezer, put it straight in the oven, you're good to go. And then it just allows you, the way that I always describe it is you're being your future friend. And the same if you have just had a baby. You might want to see if you can maybe just, if you've got some amazing parents or friends out there, rather than getting a bunch of flowers, please give me a batch cooked meal that I can put in my freezer.
Perfect.
I mean, isn't that much better than sort of having to find a vase for some flowers? You're like, thank you. So I give a lot of freezer meals. I think it's a really nice gift to give people who have just had babies. So you can maybe, if people keep saying, I'd love to do something for you, is there anything you need? Oh my gosh, wouldn't it be amazing? I've got this recipe. Do you want to cook 2 of them? Thanks very much.
That's amazing, especially if you know somebody is a good cook or they like that or they're into it or they're naturally cooking a lot. You just say, actually, you know what? I'd like a home cooked meal. I think more people should have the courage to ask for that, if anybody asks, what do you need help with?
And I think people actually want to help. And especially, I mean, you're not going to ask somebody that, you don't particularly know that well. But if it's like family who are like literally want to help and don't know what you want. Or another good thing is there's some shops out there that sell like your already frozen meals. So they might even give you a voucher for that you can just stock up your freezer, that type of thing, if you don't want to actually have them made yourself. But of course, I'm the batch lady. I'm always going to tell you to make your own because they're way cheaper and easier. So it's a good thing to get started with if you've just had a baby. And what's brilliant then is it's so easy when you get to that weaning period, because you can then start to make foods that are very similar to what you already eat as a family. And then you're just pureeing them up. And lots of my recipes, they don't have salt, they don't have pepper, they don't have strong spices. And the reason is we talk about zhuzhing it up. So when it comes out of the freezer, it is a freezer family friendly meal for the whole family, no matter what age the child is. And then you can portion out, say it's chili, you can portion out the kids ones and maybe add some creme fraiche, and for yours you can zhuzh it up, add some more spices. I quite often give a little zhuzh up bubble. Add more spices, add more herbs, and then you've made it an adult-friendly meal. So it's almost like you're making a base, and then you decide what you want to do with it. And then you can just even blitz it up with a blender if you're starting to, wean, as you're getting further down the weaning sort of route, and you're looking for full meals to sort of give them. And it just means that your children then, this is what I did with my kids, and they then eat exactly what we all eat as a family. You haven't gone from sort of kiddie meals and then trying to get them into meals that you want to all eat and cook together.
Yeah, because how can a family avoid cooking, the adult meal and then the child-friendly meal? Do you have any tips on that?
Yeah, try to make your adult meals child-friendly for a bit, like I say. So let's just take something like chicken curry. I would make a mild chicken curry, and probably with a very quite a mild spice. Add lots of veg to it. So all of my recipes have the veg already added into them, so that you don't have to think about side portions.
Yeah.
So you're not just taking it out the freezer and then thinking, oh, what else do I need to have with it? What would go with it? All the veg is already incorporated in. And then again, you're just using it up to make it an adult-friendly one. I am a massive fan of creme fraiche. Creme fraiche is great. It makes everything creamy. You can make it as mild as you want, and then you can feed babies it. So try to sit down as a couple, choose 5 meals that you regularly eat. Most of us eat the same meals over and over again. So choose the meals that you eat, and then start to bring them into your children's diet as early as you possibly can, so that they've got the same tastes as you. It's what they eat at home, they're used to it, rather than going and doing toddler meals and then trying to switch.
Yeah, because too often I hear from parents that they're having to eat what their child eats rather than vice versa. And so then they're like, oh, well, I'm not going to cook twice, so I'll just eat what they've eaten, but it's not very tasty. And then it puts people off cooking, and it's just like a slippery slope, right?
Yeah, and it's really easy to juice things up.
Yeah.
I mean, if you've got some, I use tons of frozen herbs, and you can buy them at the supermarket, and they're really cheap, and you can just open up each packet and throw some in, and you've already used it up. And you can add lots of fresh herbs to it if you've got fresh. So just because it comes out the freezer doesn't mean that you can't add lots of other things to it. It's already tasty, but you want to make sure that it's family friendly as it goes in. It's a lot easier to add to a recipe. It's a lot harder to take away.
Yeah. Even creme fraiche won't cut that, right?
Yeah. not if you've made the spiciest madras. Your creme fraiche isn't going anywhere.
That's it. And so what are some of your top tips around shopping more effectively in the supermarket as a family, when you're thinking about cooking for the whole family, and also reducing the waste that goes along with that?
Okay, right. I've got some great top tips for shopping more effectively. The first one is, do not leave your house without having decided what you're buying. Okay. We all do it. We get to the supermarket. We then go, what shall we have for dinner? The best thing that you can do is do it absolutely in reverse. So you're going to be in your kitchen, have a think about the meals that you want to cook for the week ahead. Even if you only do 3 or 4 of them and you do the rest in the supermarket, you can start small. Then you want to then, once you decide what you want to have, open your fridge and freezer, open your pantries, see what you've already got, tick off all the ingredients that you've already got that you don't need, and then there is your shopping list. That small shopping list that you've already got. That is the most efficient way to do it. So do it at home and leave with your shopping list already prepared. It sounds really boring and simple, but it really is. That's the easiest way to do it, is to do it from things that are in your house. You might open your fridge and find that you've already got some chicken breast, then therefore you're going to make something with that chicken. If you go to the supermarket, you're probably going to forget that you've already got that chicken breast in. And we're all going to buy the same amount of tomatoes that we keep buying, cans and cans and all of that. So that's the most efficient thing I would say in terms of your supermarket shop. Try not to get sucked into buying tons and tons in the fresh aisle before you keep going. So sometimes it's quite good to shop backwards. So start at the other end of the supermarket, because supermarkets are made for you to go in a certain route and they know exactly what triggers people to pick things up. So try to stick to your list and work in a different way. Just choose a slightly different route to go around. Do have a look in the freezer aisle as well in terms of saving waste. Frozen fruit, frozen veg is brilliant, as I already said. 20% cheaper. Someone has already chopped it up for you. I mean, if you're feeding a baby butternut squash, believe me, you want to buy it already chopped up and peeled. It's cheaper, it's easier, it'll store for longer. Take out exactly what you want. The rest of it goes in the freezer. Use frozen chopped onions. They're my go-to all the time. It just makes your meal times quicker in terms of everything that you're cooking. Somebody's already chopped it for you and you're using the exact amount you need. So there's not as much waste.
And so we talk a lot about frozen food, You're a fan. I've become a fan. And but what are some of the things you recommend when it comes to defrosting?
So this is where a lot of people sometimes get wary. They're not sure how to defrost. And it's really very simple. Most recipes, all my recipes, will tell you at the bottom of the recipe how to defrost it and whether you can cook it from frozen. And then in all of my books, I give you a list at the front of the book that tells you a whole list of recipes that you can already just grab out and you don't need to defrost. So if you forget that you're defrosting something, you can stick to those recipes, really.
Okay.
But the main thing is don't defrost on the counter. Do defrost in your fridge. And you can also defrost in the cold water method. This is a really good top tip for parents. You, if it's already in a bag or a sealed container, put it in freezing cold water, and within 15 minutes, if it's flat, it will defrost.
Wow.
So cold water defrosts frozen food. As long as the food doesn't touch the water, so it has to be in a sealed bag. And I tell everybody to freeze your meals flat in freezer bags. You fit way more in your freezer, and that's why you can use a tiny freezer as well. And then because they're flat, they defrost really quickly. If you've ever tried to defrost soup in a ice cream tub, it's going to take about 4 days. Mm-hmm. If you defrost something that's frozen flat and it's only about a centimetre, then it's going to defrost in about 15 minutes in cold water.
Amazing. And you also mentioned some things can go straight in an oven. They don't even need to go through the lengthy defrosting, right?
Yeah, there's lots that you can just straight away oven cook. You'd be surprised, actually. And if you are unsure, like I say, follow the bottom of the recipes, and then very quickly you get to know exactly, what defrosts and what doesn't. For instance, nearly all chicken dishes you're defrosting, unless the chicken has been cooked first.
Right.
Fish dishes, nearly all can go in straight in from frozen. So there's just various different rules to it, and it's very easy to learn as you start and go along.
Got it. Yeah, it might feel overwhelming in the beginning, but slowly as you learn the rules and the basics, you'll get the hang of it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Great.
Exactly.
So, we've talked a lot about ingredients and shopping, but let's talk recipes. So what are your top 5 recipes for parents?
Right. Well, I think it's always really good I'll give you my specific ones from my family, but then it's always good to choose your own because we all generally eat the same over and over and over again. We'd like to think that we didn't, but we all do, especially as parents when you've got young kids. Spaghetti bolognese. I'm sorry, but it's just the easiest one for everybody to eat. And what I like to talk about things that can be done 3 ways. So things like spaghetti bolognese, you freeze it as the bolognese. You can have it in baked potatoes one night. You can have it on top of pasta. You could have it in a sub and put other bits in it. There's so many different things that you can do with it. You can change it into chili just by adding some chili powder and some kidney beans, and all of a sudden you've got chili with rice. So I love things that you can change like that. Fish pie is a great one because it's full of, lovely fish. And if you have children that don't want to eat fish but you want to get them into it, just add more mash and cheese on the top and less fish, and then every time you serve it, add a little bit more fish in, and then their taste buds get used to it, and then they'll be running on that. So I'd say that's a very good one. A brilliant full of veggies, lots of hidden veggies, tomato sauce. A tomato sauce base will just see you through anything. And another great one is a good pesto. Pesto takes about 5 minutes to make, and it's so simple, and you can make a vat of it and freeze it in little ice cubes, and it's so much cheaper than buying it, and you can just grab it out whenever you need it. You can throw the ice cubes straight into the hot pasta, and within 5 minutes you've got pesto pasta. So if you've got nothing in at all, that is my go-to sort of kid-friendly meal, really.
Amazing. Wow. These are all, I presume, you talk about them in your upcoming book?
Yes, I have. My 5th book is just about to come out, called Grab and Cook. Mm-hmm. And it's a very different recipe book that I haven't seen many people, or if anybody, do this in this country. But it is all recipes that go into your freezer not cooked. So you make them all up raw. So, for example, you get a piece of foil, and you maybe put some green beans, and then you put your piece of fish on the top, and you maybe put some pesto and some herbs, and then you wrap it all up and you put it in a bag, and it goes in your freezer.
Got it.
And then when you pull it out, you're just putting it straight onto a tray and into the oven. So they're all recipes called Grab and Cook. And what I love about these, and they'll be great for anybody with young kids, is they generally take about 3 or 4 minutes to make per family recipe. And because you're not doing any cooking, and you can sit at a table, you can sit wherever you want. And if you've got kids from age 5 upwards, you can have them make them with you. It's a really good way. There's a huge section in the book about kiddie cooking, which is they can make these because they're not having to be near the cooker. They're not having to be up high on a counter. You can just help them learn how to cook by just actually making the ingredients, take all the different piles, make them into one ingredient, wrap it up, put it in the bag and in the freezer.
Amazing. And then there's the element of surprise later when that's the one I made. Now it's going in the oven. So you have a double fun, right?
Yeah. And then we talk about, as your kids get older, then you can introduce them to the cooking side of it.
Yeah.
So they've done the sort of preparing and putting it in the freezer. And as they get older then, so each part, they're only doing a half a job at a time, you know. They've prepared at one time, and then they're doing the cooking of it the next time. So as they move up in age, you can have them all do all different things. And believe me, it works, because my teenagers now can whip out a meal out of the freezer and cook it up very well.
Nice. So why go the route of freezing raw versus freezing cooked? Like, what was the impetus behind this particular book?
Yeah, so all my other books have been, I've always introduced grab and cook recipes throughout my other ones, which is having a few of them that were raw, but they've become so successful with everybody that follows me, and they kept saying, can we have more of these?
Perfect.
Because it is nice to take away the cooking element before you get them in the freezer, so you're not standing there doing lots of cooking. And actually, these recipes are fresh. If you think about if you were to cook a chicken breast, let it cool down, put it in the freezer, and then bring it back out and recook it, it's going to be drier than if you're taking a fresh chicken breast and it's been frozen, and then it's going, and then you're cooking it.
Yeah.
So it's not been cooked before. So that's a good way to look at it in terms of, you know, they're really fresh ingredients that are full of nutrients, really easy just to make up. And it's about being fast, because nowadays we're just so busy and trying to fit everything into a day. And especially when you've got kids, it's really busy. So it's nice to be able to just make them really fast, and they cook quickly. Yeah,
really fast and less wasteful, right? Because you're not relying on all of the ingredients being still okay, let's say, right? Sometimes, you know, you'll pull out your chicken and be like, oh, the aubergines are not actually, it's a bit, you know, soft, and what am I going to do now? Well, if you know you've put them all away in their one meal, then you know that they're all going to be great, right, afterwards.
Yeah.
So
the whole point is you're grabbing out a full recipe,
right,
and cooking it. So you don't have to think, do I have this certain ingredient in? Is this one still okay to use out of the fridge? You're just grabbing it and putting it straight in the oven. So they're your own ready meals. You've made them yourself, so you make them for your family. If you've got 3 children, you're going to add 3 children's portions and 2 adults. If you've only got 1 little toddler, you might be adding 2 adult portions and 1 very small portion.
Right.
So there's hardly any waste.
Yeah, you can tailor it to your family needs. That's
exactly.
Great. Before we wrap up with you, I would love to give you the chance to cover anything we haven't covered, or talk. If you want to say anything else or give any more tips, the floor is yours.
I would just say for anybody who is a bit fed up of cooking every night or is just looking for more time, then don't be afraid to give it a go. A lot of people think, I don't really know much about it. The best way is try it this week. Choose 3 recipes, make them up and put them in your freezer, or double them and put 1 in your freezer and have 1 that night. Once you find that the next game week you've got 3 nights that someone, your past self, has already cooked for you, you'll be so excited that I will guarantee you'll do it again and again, because you'll want more of those easy weeks.
Yeah.
So just give it a go. Have a think about what you're eating this week. If there's a night that you're doing an easy thing like spaghetti bolognese or some chili, double it up, and there's 1 night in the freezer ready for you to have a super easy night.
Amazing. Thanks very much, Suzanne.
Thank you.
Bye.